I have a burning question.
Yeah.
I really like this idea of a community-based, defining what the issues are for this particular domain. Can you talk a little bit about how you identified this community and got them on board? So
Yeah.
if we think about that in environmental health science, where do you start
Right.
in
Right. Right.
creating that?
Right. Right. So, well, the USGS is fairly big, but it's not huge. We have, as I mentioned, around 9,000 scientists around the country, but it's really clear who some of the leaders are, at least in the beginning, that were operating, major corporate systems, our AROS data center, the National Water Information System, the Advanced National Seismic System, our biological informatics groups. Those large investments in information and technology were pretty easy to identify. However, this particular issue, it cuts across all these cultural barriers, right? There's the whole barrier of scientists who they want to control their data and own their data. It cuts across information technologies that have only so much resources, and big centralized efforts sometimes look like they can be threatening. So how do you get those people to start talking? How do you get them to trust in what's happening? This started, I tried to pick some folks that I thought were big thinkers that would be early adopters, if you will. And I started with about 12 just to kind of vet this idea of, do you think we could do this? And we wrote a document called a blueprint for data integration. And then I held a workshop. One of the things I learned about the science community is how wonderful workshops are in terms of building relationships. Because otherwise, we all like to sit behind our computers, and we're real comfortable in our work and our research focus. And so I asked this question. There was only 65 people in the room at the time, and I asked this question. It was a room about this size. What is data integration? That big question I was trying to answer, and how do we get there? And I had this wireless mic, and I said, please introduce yourself first. And we were all from USGS, so I'm so and so from USGS, and I think the answer is metadata. And we have this big long thing, metadata, and then the mic passes, and the next person says, I think that's exactly the wrong approach, because we should be doing this. And the amazing thing, I let this go on for 2.5 hours, and everybody was so passionate. Nobody wanted to take a break. The mic was going around, and everybody had a chance to talk. And where we ended up in the end was and we had facilitated somewhat, so we were organizing some of the themes that were coming out. And where we ended up was everybody recognized that corporately we had this big problem. And it actually fell out into these categories of, that I mentioned, the visualization, the access and discovery, the big data, a lot of the computational issues associated with big data. So it very quickly tapped into the passion of the people that are there. They have real problems that they're dealing with right now. And when they started getting into the discussion, maybe you can help me solve this problem that I have with my geologist, then it naturally started to go from there. But I will tell you that I was very patient with this, and I spent about the first 2.5 to 3 years just focused on solving their problems. Me putting funding into things that help make their life easier, and then they bought into the concept, and it just kept building. We have over 500 people in the community today, a very active website. We have working groups that have spawned in each one of these areas that they're passionate about. So you do have to care and feed it. I've dedicated a person to be a community organizer. We meet every month virtually, and we have to pull that agenda together and have a good speaker with a nice science challenge, and then we meet annually face to face just to keep that community together, keep them incentivized. But I tell you, in terms of incentives, a little money goes a long way. You put some money out there and say, compete for this. They actually start teaming up, and they say, hey, will you work with me on a proposal to do this? And I say, as long as that's vetted in the community, let's do it.
This is a very interesting discussion. We'll take one more question and make it brief, and then we'll hold off the rest of the questions to the panel discussion.
Sure.
So.
Thanks, John Balbus with NIEHS. Thanks, Kevin, for a great presentation. And this is about transitioning from the incredible job you've done building the community within USGS with engagement of some other, but now you're looking to broaden this, and you thank you for what you've already done in reaching out, to some of the communities I'm involved in. But the question is, the resources, and so and how. What are your thoughts about how you can not replicate but adapt what you've done within the context of one agency and one agency's mission to do what you are doing, which is bringing this model to a larger scale data integration and community building effort? How is that going to work?
Well, it's not. There's no silver bullet. I'll just start with that. It's not an easy thing. I mentioned at the opening that if you go and you talk, resources are controlled by executives, right? They're controlled by your director, by their executive leadership team, by their program coordinators. And if you go talk to them about data or data integration, you just don't get very far. There's a few enlightened individuals, but that's about it. So it's got to be, to get the resources, you've got to be able to put this in the context of delivering upon their mission goals better. So that's the first thing. We've put forward budget initiatives that are around achieving the science that have all of this data stuff loaded into it. So that's the first thing that I think I want to say about that. And then I had another thought and I'm losing it. So maybe I got to think about it for the panel.
Search for that.
Okay.
Yes.
I will come back with a more complete answer.